When we think about our resume, we think about this official, let's start it over. My audio's too hot. 5, 4, 3, 2. When we think about our resume, we think about this official document that just gives this full view of who we are. But what if I was to tell you, or what if my guest was to share with you that your resume, it ain't your story? Well, that's exactly what he said. And he's going to explain why that's the case and how you can ensure that you do tell the right story as you're trying to find these sales jobs. Some goodness coming up. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast here on TSC TV on YouTube. I'm your host, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I love the fact that you heard that article in front of it, the Sales Evangelist, the one and only Sales Evangelist. Let's say my name right. And I'm excited to be here with you today. And I'm going to evangelize to you some effective sales topics, specifically my friend, Mr. Simon Tecle. He is the VP of sales of an amazing company. It's called SyncroMSP. And you're going to hear Simon talk a little bit more about this company. But the biggest thing, though, you're going to hear stories. And he's going to talk about this idea of how our resume isn't our story. Because as you know, we've been focusing on the series of how we can help you as a seller find your next sales gig, whether it's your first gig or if you're trying to find something new, what you should focus on and how you can make sure that's going to be successful. This is a fun episode. It is worthwhile. There are actionable things that you could take away with. So I'm not even going to take much longer. Let's go ahead and dive into this. Guys, you ready for this? They're ready for this. Let's go listen to it. Simon, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks, Donald, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, man. We could not have an episode talking about this idea without necessarily not having Simon come on the show. And I know we've been connecting and chatting for a little bit, and I bragged about you there in the introduction when I was doing that. But I would love for you to just take a moment and just tell us a little bit more about what you do right now, man, Simon.
Yeah. So I am the Vice President of Sales at a company called SyncroMSP. We sell into the managed service provider space. People that are handling, we call them external IT, and that are handling, their customers' laptops. I relate it to, we all work at a company. When your computer breaks and you call your IT department and they log in and fix it or whatever the case is, we sell that software that does that.
Well, I'm excited for that. It brings back a little bit of memory. I worked in managed IT services. One of the first jobs out of college, it was a company called Performance Data. We had an identity crisis, and that was kind of like a whole other thing. But one of the things that we did manage IT services. So for doctors' offices, small companies, our team helped them out. So a little bit familiar with that space. So that's pretty neat there. They needed a lot of help for the past, way back when. So I'm sure technology like this make life easier for them.
Yeah, it's I would say it's like one of those necessary evils, and everybody has to have the computer guy or my IT person, and usually IT person. Yeah, my IT person could be the guy in the basement, or it could be one of our customers. So yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, Simon, today I want to talk to you about this idea for this past series. Or this series, as we're focusing on, we're trying to help sellers who are trying to find their next gig, finding that new sales job. And for each and every one of us, the best time, and I've been sharing this on almost every episode, the best time to find a sales job, one of my friends' brother used to tell him this, is when you have a job. So don't start looking when you don't. When you have one, it's a great time. You got leverage. But right now, finding your next sales gig is our theme. And today we're going to focus on your resume and how your resume isn't your story. When you sent me or told me about that topic, I was like, interesting. This is going to be good. Why would you say that right out the gate, that the resume is not your story?
Because, Donald, I've interviewed hundreds, of people wanting to get into a sales role throughout my career. Mm-hmm. And one thing it's a common thread that I've seen, doesn't matter if it's the position is a more senior level position or it is an entry level position. I hear a lot of times, and I still hear it to this day, well, I don't have X, Y, and Z experience, or I don't have A, B, and C. that I know you're probably looking for. And that that answer drives me crazy, actually. And so I think too many times, and I know you said like people looking for their next sales job, even people looking for their first sales job or trying to get into the tech space, don't let your resume be the anchor, right? Your resume isn't your story. And if you go into interviews or you're talking to people or you're thinking like, hey, I can't get into sales or tech sales because I don't have sales experience, you're wrong. And so your resume isn't your story.
It sounds like you have a story about one of those experiences that you saw. Can you think of someone that came through your doors or came into an interview when they really focused on that and you turned their world upside down? Trying to help them understand that resume wasn't their story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the important thing to know for anybody in this situation or scenario is if you are lacking experience in a specific area or something, like the hiring manager knows that, right? And they wouldn't even be talking to you if that was a blocker, right? They're talking to you for a reason. So you have to think like, okay, they know I may not have as much experience with this or this specific thing they're looking for, but they're talking to you, so they know that. But one of the things that I do, and I've done it throughout my career, is the first question I ask when I meet somebody is, hey, tell me your story. Right? What brought you here today? Right? And I get two different answers there. I'll get someone who will just read their resume to me, and I hate that answer because I have your resume in front of me. Or I'll get someone who will tell me a mixture of their personal with some professional experience, the stuff that isn't on their resume that helps describe who they are. And I learned so much from that, right? It was, and the other part is like, selling is storytelling. So I'm just trying to understand, like, what have you learned? What have you been through that made you feel you're right for this role? I know what experience you have or not. I've read your resume, but I'm talking to you. So tell me what your story is.
The idea of that story, I mean, I think I guess go back, why do you feel so many people don't do that in the first place? Why do where this idea came from, and this notion that a resume is the ultimate, like, my Bible of my life. Like, this is what it is, and it's so official. Is it because emphasis is put on it in the corporate world, or is it just because people have insecurities on their talents and capabilities?
I think it's a combination of the both, but I think it's the emphasis around, resumes are key in the corporate world. And, I think of a story where I interviewed someone for a sales role and she kept saying, I don't have any sales experience. I don't have any sales experience. She kept saying that in an interview. And I pointed to her resume and said, hey, I see you do photography on the side. Tell me about that. And she went on to tell me a story how she loved photography so much that she went and bought a camera, and then she went to neighborhoods when it was closer to high school graduation and knocked on doors and told people about her services, and that's how she drummed up business and for her side hustle. And that story was like, and I said, well, what do you mean you don't have sales experience? You just went out here, thought about how to market yourself, and then said, hey, graduation is near. Let me go up and down and knock on doors all day to find customers for a side job that you had, right? I said, so that's why I said, just because you don't have 3 years or 2 years sales experience in this space doesn't mean anything to me. Tell me that's a story I want to hear, right? And so there are so many stories like that, or that people don't take their life experiences and relate it to the job or to the role. For example, if someone, if you're a parent, tell me how you learn to multitask, right? And how that's important to the role, right? If you're a former military or army, like, tell me about your time management skills and the discipline you've learned, right? That tells me if that's a criteria for the role, tell me that. Did you play sports, right? Tell me about your will to win and competitiveness. There are so many things that we can do to tell what our story is and make it relatable that we don't put on our resume, but I think people miss out on that so many times. And I just want us to think in totality about what we've done throughout our life and not necessarily professionally that can relate to a job.
not all of us, not all of those leaders out there, or those hiring managers, or those hiring VPs of sales are going to be like like you, Simon. They're not going to focus on the real value there. They'll probably have their jaded way of doing things. How do I bring that up in an interview if I am if I'm a seller going into an interview with someone when they want to use the traditional method of my resume? How do I make that possible to bring that up? And before you even answer that, because I like having fun, what if we role play that?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, so I'm hiring you, and I'm the resume guy. You show me how this is to be done, where you bring that story in, or to use your stories while I'm this focused on resume. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I would do
Hey
it,
guys, Simon and I didn't practice this at all.
yeah, this is off the cuff, but I like it.
So Simon, yeah, welcome. Looking at your resume here, see you got some experience. You're new to the industry, and I see you also, you're a student body president in college. Great stuff here. I don't see any sales experience though.
Yeah. Hey, Donald. Absolutely, and I'm glad I can address that right away. When the reason I applied to the role is I saw that some of the requirements for it were curiosity, dependability, talking to customers, organizational ability, and there are things I've done in my past that required me to manage and handle all those skills. For instance, like you mentioned, I'm student body president, so I have to remain really organized because I have to cater to tasks and different events that we're doing. I'm in a lot of meetings for that, as well, for different initiatives that are going on. But also, I have to work with other presidents of different groups, and I've learned a lot of skills like working cross-functionally, like I probably would in this role with different departments. And from there, like you can teach, and I'm kind of going off here the path is, but you can from there you can talk about those specific things that you've had to do. So you mentioned student body president. You can mention different things. I would open up the conversation with that way, and I even coach people that are telling me they're going through interviews. I always say, like, take out the line items of the job description and be able to answer, hey, coachability was one thing that's important. Here are the times that I've demonstrated that. Organizational ability was important. Here are the times that so literally pick apart the job description and tell stories that can tell the hiring manager that you have those skills or you've been in those environments, right? So back to your question when you said, well, you don't have any sales experience. And I said, well, I applied because I saw this as a requirement. And in my time as a student body president, I had to do that. 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 Right. And that's how, you're able to overcome or display those characteristics.
And what I love about that answer too is like the fact that you didn't say you didn't agree with me that you didn't have sales experience. You said it's like you took control of that meeting, because now you are changing the direction of the flow, like saying the reason why I applied for this job, and it is answering the question, it's just answering it in the way that you feel it's going to best help you. And I think that's what the person want to hear. That's what I would like to hear, because it's like, dang, I wrote this darn thing, or I sat down with marketing or HR and wrote out these job descriptions. Well, clearly this person is creative and they're tenacious and so forth and blah, blah, blah. I like it. And, I really love that concept of making sure you come up with those vignettes beforehand, those stories, so to speak.
Absolutely, and that's the most important. If it's on the job description, then clearly it was important. So if you cannot answer those, then that's a different conversation. But if you can, if you can answer what's on the job description and say, this is why I applied, imagine going to a hiring manager and saying that, hey, Donald, I know I don't have sales experience, but this is why I applied, right? I saw this, and in my experience, I've done that, and that. And, then the elephant's out of the room then at that point.
Yeah, I love that. Any other tips you'd give a seller who's listening to this that is in one of those traditional interview settings that it can help to make sure that they make sure that their stories are relevant? So I love the idea of coming prepared with stories. Anything else that you can think about that can help them in preparation?
Yeah, I always have extremely thoughtful questions at the end. and understand who you're interviewing with, and questions kind of you're interviewing 101. The follow up as well, right? The minute your interview is done, ask, following up. And then showing, I would say, like, whatever the role is, showing those behaviors during the interview process, right? I've had people tell me they're phenomenal, like, how follow up is like my superpower. I'm like, okay, great. But then there's no follow up after the interview. It's like, well, no, following up actually isn't your superpower, right? So it's also understanding.
I want it to be.
I want it to be, or I'm just going to say it in the interview because someone told me to say it, right? But people pick up on that. And are you demonstrating the things that you're saying you're really good at and that you're able to do? And I think that's all important. It's part of like telling the whole story. And I wouldn't just stress like what's on your resume, or what, more importantly, what isn't on your resume, and talk about what is the story, with the person, and what skills you have that are relatable to the role.
Yeah, I'm very, I love that. And I think even something that you went back to, because I know somebody's listening to this episode right now, they're driving, they're like, dang, well, I ain't got no much interesting stories, like I didn't shatter president's record, or things of that nature. But I love what you shared at the beginning, like, go back to like your experience as a mom, or experience as, even if it's like student by the president, or experience, even if it's a non-sales related role. Everybody's selling. Everything you're doing is selling. Mm-hmm. There's got to be something that you can go back to, or you can find if you take the time and sit down and dig deeper with it. In regards to the resume, though, like as you're creating that, is there a way you can tell stories with what's on the resume, like the way you write the resume, if that makes sense?
Yeah, you can always highlight. So people always highlight like accomplishments and skills, and with resumes, you can always highlight those. What are the hard and soft skills that you have inside of as you're writing out a resume, right? And I think that that's really important. Or you can put it at the top of the resume too. So that's like kind of the conversation starter. You can highlight those inside. And I think I've seen it before in resumes where there was a gap and someone put there exactly what happened in their personal life for that year and a half. And they put a story in there too, dealt with this, right? Overcame this adversity, X, Y, and Z. And it was almost like a role that they put in their resume. And I was like, hey, this is actually interesting and it's different. I haven't seen that before. But it was extremely effective as well. I think of another story where somebody told me, hey, I grew up in a single family house. My mom, she would go to work 5 days a week. And at the age of 14, I was left with 2 younger siblings. And I had the responsibility of making sure they were fed and went to bed and this. And he's like, and I'm like, that is a powerful story. Like, look at the discipline.
Wow.
And look at the responsibility that you've taken on at 14 and what that has taught you, up to now. These are the stories that really make a difference for me.
Yeah. I don't know if most people would gravitate towards those stories right away, because they probably would feel, I'm just hearing people are thinking, like, they probably think they're get embarrassed. Like, I don't want to talk about that. But that's the power. Those are the good stories, right? Like, those are the situations that have it doesn't need to be the impressive, corporate thing where I worked at Lockheed Martin when I was fresh out of college. A lot of people don't have those experiences to connect. It's with those everyday life things. And I think that's what makes it more relatable. You telling me something like that, if that was the case, as a 14-year-old, I'd be like, dang, actually, I fell in the same category too, because I was thinking about that same story with myself. Like, my brother and sister and I, grew up in a Jamaican mom house, and she's out there hustling, doing her thing, so trying to make things for us. So we had to make things happen, stay with family or whatever was needed. And I really like that. It's personable, relatable.
Yeah, and to me, if you tell a story like that and the person you're interviewing with is turned off or doesn't appreciate like what that brings, run. Like, that's not the company for you. Like, because seriously, they're if someone's not going to appreciate the things that have made you who you are. Like, that's what I'm hiring. I can teach skill. I can teach all that. If I'm talking to you, it's for a reason, and I'm hiring the person first. And tell me who this person is. And so stories like this, I think, are critical, because it takes me beyond the resume. I could read resumes all day, but take me beyond the resume.
Yeah. Love it, Simon. If there's one major takeaway you'd give to folks listening to this episode, what we talked about so far, is there one major piece of advice that you would have them walk away with the most?
Yes, apply to careers or jobs where you relate to the requirements of the role. Plain and simple.
I think that's the money right there, y'all. If y'all listen to us the whole time, that's the money. You're going to need to go take that and try to go take it to the bank. They'll probably give you gold for it. Simon, if folks want to get connected with you and to learn more about you, or to just have you as someone in their mentor in their direction or in their corner, what's the best way for them to go about connecting with you?
Yeah, you can email me at simon@SyncroMSP.com, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Simon Tecle, Tecle.
Simon, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Donald. This was fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Simon Tecle. And if you want to go ahead and connect with Simon, you can find him on LinkedIn. Simon says you can find him on LinkedIn. That means you need to move right now. If anyone ever played a game before, and when Simon says something, you need to listen, because this guy, he's full of wisdom, full of knowledge, and he's just straight up down to earth, and he brings so much value, and someone I respect, and I feel that you will be able to respect and connect with him as well. Find him on LinkedIn. Tell him that you heard him on the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I know he'll appreciate that. Listen, speaking about here on the Sales Evangelist podcast, our sponsors are giving away gifts to you. I mean, these offers they're giving are designed specifically for you as the TSC community, and I want you to take advantage of it. If you want to find more details about that, just click down on the show notes, take advantage of those offers. As always, I want you to find more ideal customers. 1, I want you to know how to reach out to them and that you can build stronger value. 2, I want you to be able to close more deals. 3, but most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking every day. Raise your level of thinking and go out and do big things. Thank you so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.